We do have a quorum present for open session. So the time is now 5 p.m. We will now call the special public meeting of the Board of Trustees of Humble ISD to order. Moving to our first item, that would be closed session. A closed session of the board will now be held in the matters contained in this notice for this meeting. Should the board determine that any final action, final decision, or final vote be required with regard to any matter considered in such closed session, then such final action, final decision, or final vote will be made upon reconvening of this public meeting in open session. As we've done in the past, per Governor Abbott's guidelines and the temporary suspension of the open meetings laws that was established on March 16, 2020, this meeting will be conducted via video and audio conference. So with that said, we will adjourn to closed session. It is 5:01.
Lori?
Yeah, we're missing Lori and 1, 2, 3,
Brent.
4, 5. Missing Lori and Brent. There's Brent. Oh, there's Lori. Okay, perfect. All right. Let's see where we at. All right, the time is now 5:49 p.m. We will now reconvene into open session. A public hearing, our first item in open session, a public hearing to discuss the 2020-2021 budget. The board will now hold a public hearing on the budget as required by Texas Education Code 44.004F. The board may hear public comments, discuss, and may adopt the budget. Anyone wishing to speak, either as an individual or as a representative of a group, may do so following the procedure outlined on the agenda. The board asks that comments pertain to the budget and be no longer than 5 minutes. Do we have any questions or comments by patrons or employees of the district in regards to the budget hearing?
So no one signed up.
Okay, no one has signed up. All right, Dr. Fagan, I'd like to kick this over to you to start the budget hearing.
Great. As you all know, every year we recommend a budget to the board that we believe is in the best interest of the district and the community and in alignment with the resources we'll have available. The district has a long history of being fiscally conservative and responsible in its budgeting, and that served us very well during Hurricane Harvey. That Hurricane Harvey year, had we not had the resources available that we did, we wouldn't have been able to hire Blackman Mooring the very week of the hurricane to start the remediation process at Kingwood High School and immediately move into the process of mucking it out and then restoring it, getting our students back quickly. All of those things were a huge benefit to our district, and so we want to continue also during this, doing that same thing where we evaluate the ongoing dollars we have available, the ongoing priorities that we have, and then the one-time dollars we have available, the one-time priorities that we have, and move things forward in the best interest. So as we presented to the board in previous sessions, we are being cautious as we move into the fiscal year 21 budget, because we know that the economy of the state of Texas has been impacted by some decisions that were made as far as staying home and closing businesses. We know that economic impact may have some sort of impact on education funding in our state. We also know that we have seen oil prices, historic lows, in fact, paying people to take our oil for a period of time, which is a challenge for the state of Texas also. So to that end, we have looked at all of our absolute needs, the things that are imperative for the functioning of Humble ISD, including our growth as a district. You may recall the PASA study that showed the growth of the district. We're using a moderate growth scenario to move forward into next year, where we believe we will continue to grow by about 1,000 students. In addition to that, we have additional, quite a few students who are needing additional special education services, about 50,000 minutes. We are continuing forward in our ongoing quest to constantly evolve in our school safety practices so that our students and staff and families know that we always pay attention to that, and we take a step forward in it every single year. We have a commitment to quality data as a school district. We're not interested in data that's easy to capture. We want the best data so that we can make the best decisions for our students and staff and help our students achieve their dreams. That's also something you'll see in this budget is the idea that Humble ISD strives to make sure that every single child in our care has the opportunity to explore themselves, their interests, their strengths, their challenges, their desires, their hopes, craft a long-term plan that we support them in achieving, whether it be college, career, or military readiness, or something completely different from that. But we are committed to helping them explore and then also achieve what it is they want. And so we have some items in this budget that do that also, paying attention to the things that matter most to our students and paying attention to the data that helps us know if we're doing a good job based on things that we value the most. So although this is a conservative budget, it absolutely is. It's a budget that seeks to, above and beyond all else, keep the Humble ISD family whole as we monitor the economic circumstances of our state, as we maintain the fiscal responsibility in our own budget in the district and the community, so that we're prepared for whatever comes our way. We have made that commitment to keep the family whole, but at the same time, we have made some improvements. Mike Steele is going to share with you some exciting news about insurance plans that we think are going to be a giant step forward for Humble ISD and an opportunity for our employees, even during what could be difficult economic times, to still achieve improvements in their personal financial circumstances. And we're also going to move the district forward on our highest priorities in smart and responsible ways. So we're looking forward to presenting this budget to you tonight. We're recommending many of these items that I've previewed, and Mike Steele will go into more of the details regarding our revenues, our expenditures, and what we're recommending for fiscal year 21. And as a side note, I just want to mention that our employees are our single greatest strength. We know that what the Humble ISD family, the folks in the classrooms, the support staff, every single person is very, very important to the support we give our students, and we are committed to them. So should the economics of Texas turn around and be very favorable, we are committed to absolutely moving forward in future years with significant pay and compensation plans. So with that, I will turn it over to Mike Steele, I believe.
All right.
Yep.
Can y'all hear me? No, I'm muted.
No, you're not.
No.
I'm not.
Hear you, Mike.
All right. I appreciate all the time and effort that all of the staff and the board has put into preparing a budget. This has been a budget season like none other that I've been through. There were some significant budget cuts some years back, but we've compounded the problem by having to work from a distance. But it's been a fruitful process. We are proud, given the resources that we have available to us, for the proud of the budget that we've put together. You'll see on the screen, hopefully, the budget priorities that we presented to the board in a prior meeting. Dr. Fagan went over a number of those, so we will not belabor those unless anyone has any additional questions. But I'd like to start by talking about the staffing additions that we are proposing this year. And I'd like for you to look at how heavily those are weighted to the campuses. 88 new classroom teachers, 2 classroom additional administrators, and those relate to the opening of Centennial Elementary School. 30 campus paraprofessionals, and those are heavily loaded with assistants in our area of special education. 17 other staff members, which include things like librarians and nurses and central office staff and folks like that. we're requesting 10 teacher contingency positions and only 4.5 non-campus positions. And I can tell you that all of those positions, though they are not individuals that are actually residing on a campus, those are positions that are student-based. Those are things like a counselor for our foster children. An individual, I think it will be a position like a senior director who is taking care of college graduation and counseling and things like that. But these are all clearly all 151.5 positions are focused on the campus, and the total cost of those additions will be approximately $8.2 million. And feel free as I move forward in this to ask questions as we go, or you can wait until the end. The next slide talks about the total of all of our proposed budget changes for this year. We start again with that $8.2 million of new positions. We will have, because of those additional staff members, we'll have increases to employee benefits and our increase to our contribution to TRS for those employees. We have about $200,000 of adjustments for employees that are going to receive modest salary increases because they're taking on significant additional duties. Instead of adding additional staff, we have added duties to existing employees. We're going to increase the operational expenditures for Centennial Elementary School. That primarily is utilities, some supplies, some support staff that is not campus-based support staff, and then other increases to recurring expenditures, which total $1,295,000. I'll remind the board, as I've told you before, we had initial requests of approaching $20 million for new non-recurring expenditures that would have fallen into this category. In a normal year, and all of those are valid student-centered, staff-centered requests. In a normal year, we would have narrowed that down to a few $1 million, but as you can see, we've gone to just the bare bones necessities here for the items that Dr. Fagan mentioned were our focus in our introduction, about $1.3 million. So the total proposed budget increases are $1,820,000. Now we're going to go into what actually is the budget that we will be asking the board to adopt. Local revenues the first is the operating budget. Local revenues of $195 million and approximately $300,000. State program revenues of $248 million, approximately $500,000. Federal program revenue of $4.6 million for total revenue in the operating budget for the 2020-21 school year of $448,350,051. Total expenditures, and the board has this complete breakdown by function of expenditures in their packet. Total expenditures will be $434,483,703, leaving us with a budgeted surplus of $13,866,348. We are going to operate as frugally as possible. The fact that we have a $434 million budget doesn't mean we are committed to spending that much. It's our hope that we will underspend that amount by a few $1 million, which will take that approximately $14 million surplus, take it up a little bit, so we will carry additional capacity into the next year. Any questions about this? Next, we will look at the proposed child nutrition budget for the 2020-21 school year. always try to adopt a balanced budget in child nutrition. You're really not supposed to bring more money in than you spend on feeding the kids. Local revenue, $6,750,780. State program revenue, $90,900. Federal program revenues of $9,215,805. Total revenue would be $16,057,485 with matching total expenditures and a zero surplus. This is a good time to remind the board when folks talk about they really don't like the fact that we have to follow federal meal guidelines that are restrictive in what we can and cannot serve our students, that the reason we do that is it makes $9.2 million worth of difference to the district. And we are not a district, and there are very few districts with students with high free and reduced meal population that can afford to turn away from federal program revenue and absorb that into our regular operating budget. Oh, and by the way, we do not at this time anticipate meal price increases. That has not been finalized, but that's not anticipated in this budget we're adopting. Proposed budget for debt service. Local revenue, $74 million, approximately $300,000. State program revenue of about $1 million. That comes in the form of some hold harmless for some agreements made with the state in past years. No federal program revenue. Total revenue of $75,291,573. Total expenditures projected at that same amount. This is a budget that would allow us to sell additional bonds at the end of this month. And again, I will remind you that with only about $1 million exception, for the most part, we are on our own when we sell bonds and pay debt for construction. So the sum of that budget, of all of those budgets, proposed total budget for 2020-21 school year for operations, nutrition, and debt service, $276,350,800. State program revenues of $249,532,504. Federal program monies of $13,815,805 for a grand total revenue of $539,699,109. Total expenditures projected at $525,832,761, and a surplus budgeted of $13,866,348. I'll remind the board that we will not be asking them to adopt a tax rate tonight. That action will be taken in October because we have to get the next set of official certified tax rolls from HCAD. Once we plug that in, we will get clarification of the new laws regulating tax rates, but we anticipate that the debt service tax rate will be unchanged at 35 cents and that the operating fund tax rate will drop to approximately $1.03.7. And I believe that's approximately a 3% reduction from the current year tax rate. And the final slide, and this, as long as I have been involved in school district finance, I like to make this assertion at the end of the presentation. Back in days when I was, for a short while, when I was serving on a school board in the district, they presented a budget. They presented it in a lot of detail, but I wanted to know why it was the right budget for us to adopt. And this defines why we believe this is the right budget for us to adopt. We believe that the budget as presented appropriately addresses the education and developmental needs of all Humble ISD students, provides a fair and competitive plan for all district staff, and does so in a manner that is fiscally responsible to our taxpayers and community. And if the board supports us in believing that the budget accomplishes those goals, we will ask that you move forward and adopt this budget later in the meeting. With that, that is the end of my presentation. It's time for any additional comments that the superintendent might have to round things out. Comments, and then comments or questions from the board or the public.
No, thanks, Mike, and to everybody who participated. I really appreciate all the budget development. We started down a path. This has sort of been the theme of the spring. We started down a path, and then, you know, all of a sudden everything changed, and so we had to completely reconstruct what we were doing. And I feel like we did that in the best interest of our student, staff, community, and taxpayers in this budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fagan. Thank you, Mike, and your entire team. At this time, I will hold my comments until everyone has a chance to ask any questions or make any comments. Any comments from any of the other trustees at this point? Any questions, any clarifications? All right, not seeing any. Well, I just want to thank the entire finance team and Dr. Fagan and her cabinet. As we all know, due to the COVID-19 situation, also with the price of oil has been mentioned already. The local economy and the Texas economy has taken a pretty good hit over the last few months. So with all the unknown variables out there, I think a very lean budget at this point, keeping the Humble ISD family whole, keeping our programs whole, and looking out for what's best for our students and our staff and our entire family, I think is a very prudent budget going forward. As in the past, we have had lean budgets more recently back in 2011, and we aggressively caught up after that. And put us in a very good position of where we are today. So with that said, is there any other comments before we move on to our action items?
Mr. President,
Mr. Scarfo, go ahead.
Thank you. I think it would just be worth noting that there were numerous questions asked by board members over the last few days, as well as the last session, just so everyone realizes that this is the first time we're seeing this and didn't just run through it in 10 minutes, that there were many questions answered by Dr. Fagan and her staff. And I know we all appreciate that in terms of their diligence in explaining and sometimes having to re-explain to people like me who tend to be a little dense sometimes. But I appreciate that. But just that we should mention that there were a lot of questions asked.
No, very good point. And I apologize for not making that known. Yes. We received this budget presentation a few days ago, along with the legalities of posting of the meeting and the agenda. And there were numerous questions and clarifications made and given over that period of time. So thank you, Mr. Scarfo, for that clarification. Anyone else? Okay, this public hearing for our budget is now officially closed, and we will move on to board business. I know that we had a placeholder for additional questions or comments by patrons, community members, and staff, and no one signed up appropriately to address the board. So we will move on from that section. So item number 4, action and items from closed session. Ms. Toomey, can I get a motion? You're muted.
There we go. Now I'm unmuted.
Okay.
I think my husband wishes I had one of those buttons. Okay. I move that the board approve the administration's personnel recommendations as presented in closed session with addendum.
We have a motion. We have a second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. That is 7-0. That motion passes. So now let's move on to our consent agenda, item 5. 5A, budget transfers and amendments, including the 2015 property value study audit, the CARES Act, and the commitments of fund balance. Consent. Item 5B, goods, professional services, and non-construction services exceeding $50,000 in the aggregate or $25,000 individually. That is consent. Item C, 5C, Humble ISD alternate self-funded medical plan. That is consent. Item 5D, contractor selection for Kingwood High School backflow preventer project. That is also consent. Ms. Toomey, could you read that back in the form of a motion, please?
I move to approve the consent agenda items A through D.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 7-0. Perfect. All right, let's move on to item 6, our action items. Item 6A, an order authorizing the issuance of Humble Independent School District unlimited tax school building and refunding bonds in one or more series, levying a tax and providing for the security and payment thereof, authorizing a pricing officer to approve the award of the sale thereof in accordance with specified parameters, authorizing the redemption prior to maturity of certain outstanding bonds, and enacting other provisions related thereto. Do I have a motion?
I move that the board approve the order authorizing the issuance of Humble Independent School District unlimited tax school building and refunding bonds in one or more series, levying a tax and providing for the security and payment thereof, authorizing a pricing officer to approve the award of the sale thereof in accordance with specified parameters, authorizing the redemption prior to maturity of certain outstanding bonds, and enacting other provisions related thereto.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes 7-0. All right. Item 6B regarding our budget adoption. Ms. Toomey, could I get that in the form of a motion?
I move that the board approve the 2020-2021 budget for the General Fund, National School Breakfast and Lunch Program Fund, and the Debt Service Fund as presented.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. That is also 7-0. Item C, in reference to our compensation plan, Ms. Toomey.
I move that the board approve the proposed 2020-2021 compensation plan.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. That is 7-0. All right, that appears to be all of our action items. We do have an information item. The proposed underwriting team for the 2020 bond sale and future refunding issues. You all should have received that list. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Seal on how that was determined, or any comments? All right, not seeing any. We're good to go there. And in closing, anything, consideration for topics for future board business? Not seeing any. It is now 6:17 p.m. and our meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for being here, and thank you for being attentive and helping us knock this stuff out. Once again, Dr. Fagan, you and your team killed it. Karen Martin, as always, you put together a great meeting, and we appreciate you. And to all my board colleagues, great job. But I'm glad. Thanks for being well prepared.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank
Be
you.
well.
Have a good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
All right.